Why is Bruce Willis a star? All right, so moving on from there, I'm going to turn it over to Mix Macabre and Black Adam Willis, because you all got to see an Oscar-winning picture now.
Yeah.
All right, A Fantastic Woman. You want to give us the inside
I thought
stuff?
the Oscar was going to go to The Square, first of all, because I think that won the Cannes Film Festival, and I usually go, that's what's going to win the Oscar.
You think
but when I saw...
was undeserved?
No, I hadn't seen this yet, so I watched it today. Okay. Because it won, and I was so surprised that, not surprised that I liked it, but like that I hadn't heard of it and that it was playing and that I had waited just till it won to see it. But if you want to kick us off on this, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I loved it, but I feel like I'm super biased for these types of films. But
maybe,
but it basically follows like the love life of main character in many ways.
Yeah, it's like a melodrama. It's basically it follows this here. What's the name? Marina is her name. It played by Daniela Vega.
Yep, who was the first trans woman to present an award at the Oscars.
Correct. Yeah, and she's in a relationship with this man named Orlando, and she's a singer. She's very talented, and she's at the show. She's doing a performance, and they go home, and basically he clutches his chest in the middle of the night. And he's taken to the hospital and he's dead. And from that point on,
who hasn't been there?
Yeah, and from that point on,
I
you know what I mean.
I died.
They go to the family, who is kind of it basically all turns to how she is treated after her lover is dead. The family can't really understand that the father and this woman's husband is in a relationship with this woman, and the doctors even, kind of give her the masculine pronunciation of her name and things. So it's just straight disrespect, and then she gets evicted from her home that she shared with Orlando. So it's really all this really heavy kind of dumping ground on this woman, and like her in the face of that trying to literally survive. And she obviously, to me, kind of is the symbol very, that it's limited not just to Chile where the film was made and where it takes place, but this is kind of, I think, the plight of many transgender, people. And, this movie is kind of, like I said, a melodrama, and it has a lot of like these realistic kind of issues, but it's also peppered with some surrealness, some very, fantastical moments.
Yeah, it has the magical realism elements. It's as a lot of Latino American filmmakers veer
toward
like
that Almodovar type style.
I was going to say that Almodovar very like the kind of, it's not quite a dream sequence, but it's not quite like how it would go down in reality. Right. And there's a very beautiful visual quality to this film, I thought.
It's very bright, but it also had the shadow.
Well, that's
which was
for
great.
A film like this, you'd think it'd be kind of mopey. Right. If you will, but I never felt that way.
No,
it
was
very not necessarily so far as uplifting, but it's just again very bright. Main characters very cheerfully dressed, bold
I think
colors.
It would have been a little overdone if it had been a little like more drab.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not getting.
I wouldn't have got I would have walked away kind of like, damn, you know what I mean?
It doesn't
a little too heavy.
Feel almost like it doesn't have that soap opera quality that I think that it could have veered into.
It would have been almost parody at that point.
And I think that what really tempers it is also the acting. I felt was all very, not just well done, but realistic in the sense that characters felt very three-dimensional, that characters felt very like it wasn't just like relying on stereotype, even though the plight of the film kind of comes down to like what role this trans woman has after her lover passes away, and kind of how do you parse out almost like this life that no longer has its focus without her partner, without her lover. And something that I found really, what I think maybe led to its winning the Oscar here, is that it wasn't another woe is me, she's trans and no one respects her. It's that she was kind of reclaiming her life in a way that was very, again, three-dimensional and more than just, it didn't heavily rely on, I'm trying to think how to put this, her being a trans woman wasn't the crux of this film.
Right.
It was another facet of who she was and the struggles that she had to overcome in this film. But the story wasn't a coming out story. The story wasn't what we've seen 100 times. That this character was moving through this tale and evolving through it in a way that I think we haven't really seen since the movie Tangerine, where characters are, I don't want to say incidentally trans because their transgendered nature is center to the story, but I really think that Fantastic Woman is both aptly named, but also a film that I would really suggest to people that just enjoy the romantic drama genre and don't necessarily look at it as a queer film. Just go into it the same way that you would were this a cisgendered straight love story of a lover passing away. And that's what I think that they had a really deft hand with how, and I don't know if this is because it's not American, but it felt very richly done. Every scene had a lot going on, and again
like
with just the colors used.
That they still have scenes.
Yes,
you know
yes.
what I mean?
There was,
Probably
you would have everything had a setting to it. It wasn't just like now we're in a hospital room.
To
now
further
we're in a
along the
bedroom.
story, they want to actually bask in the cinema of what we're showing you, and I completely agree. One of the things that kind of ruined me with the film in terms of like how I felt was this woman was not just being treated so poorly. It's that she was really robbed of not just her lover when he passes away, but her right to mourn him too. Which is she wasn't allowed to go to the funeral. You know what I mean? She was kicked out of the house. She wasn't allowed to have the dog. The dog was taken from her, and so it was really robbed of like not just like I said her lover and how they don't have that relationship anymore because he's gone, but like she wasn't even allowed to mourn him, and that can be such a devastating thing. You know what I mean? Like losing a friend recently, and like if I wasn't had that outlet to like actually sit there and kind of work through it and talk about it and get that stuff out, like that is a really, really, really heavy thing to not be able to or be allowed to do. And her being stripped of that in this film really kind of touched me in a way, like having gone through stuff like that as well. But you're right.
Remembering your experience as a trans woman, being denied a meaningful relationship with someone.
But like jokes aside, that's kind of what I'm getting at, and I think that the reason that it won this foreign language Oscar is that it connects with an audience on a level that isn't a trans story. That it is a story about a woman who is trans, who is being denied her life essentially because of who and what she is. But it doesn't feel like you can't connect with her. And that's something that I think a lot of media, particularly queer media, sometimes has this isolationist feeling to it. And this doesn't. This is a bold and interesting story that I think was told well. And that's something that I feel makes it very deserving of the award, the accolades it has received. And also just it was enjoyable to watch. It's obviously not the most happy fun time movie ever, but it was a pleasure to watch this movie. It felt engaging, and I personally am really glad that I was able to make the time for it.
Yeah, I mean, and we were crapping a little bit on the Oscars a little bit, but if it wasn't for award shows like this and having this movie won something, I wouldn't have probably discovered it. And so, it might be out of touch, it might not be connected, but on that same tip, some of these movies that win and some of these movies, wow, I didn't hear about that, no one's seen this, like, well, maybe you should because they're fantastic. And I think, case in point, this movie, like I went out and saw it this afternoon because it won, because I didn't know enough about it, and I'm so happy I did. And I think if more people kind of did that, like, hey, what's this 3 Billboards movie? What's this? You know what I mean? If they go out and discover it, and that has a lot of value. So that's all I will say. But yeah, I give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, I give it a thumbs up, absolutely.
All right. I figure you guys were leaning toward the thumbs down, so I'm very surprised that went the way it did. All right, so the movie's called A Fantastic Woman. Where can cats actually check this out?
This is at the Coolidge. This is at the Kendall.
Anything that you're going to find that's a more art house theater should have it.
Which is one of 2 or 3 locations in Boston.
Like I think the Embassy out near Waltham has it, I think.
Yeah. All right, so mostly like indie theaters, places that show, places that have
places that show movies with subtitles.
Yes.
Yeah, things like that.
Yes.
All right.
I gotta read and watch this. These movies suck.
Yes, you have to read.
Sticking on that high prestige note, I'm going to kick it over to Mix Macabre and